Well, hello everybody. How are you doing, my Get Balanced 2020 peeps? I'm just getting set up here. Um, I decided to come on and do a new video. I haven't done one for a little bit. Been sort of crazy, and then I was in the hospital again, or not again, but in the hospital last week. So I didn't get a chance to do some videos, and so through a couple of my other things that I'm doing at this present time, I actually have been being told in my head through my abilities to come on and do this. So, as you see, what the title is, Be True to Yourself, and about being true to who you are, kind of thing, before you can actually move forward. And this is basically starting from actually our childhood. This is a mind spirit thing, it's almost an internal battle that we have with ourselves. And so we're going to sort of touch base a little bit on the spirit and the mind, and how we are going to be true to ourselves. And what I mean by that is how honest are we of ourselves? I mean, how honest are you of everything that you do, and who you are is the question before you actually bring somebody into your life, a relationship into your life, or bring or it's a job that you're going to choose to take, or anything that you actually are as yourself. And what I mean by that is, okay, so in our history, we, in our mind and our spirit process, basically, just so you know, because in Get Balanced 2020, if you've not watched any of my videos, then basically we start with spirit, because spirit is actually what is inside us, what drives us, what is right, what is wrong, what is truth to us, as what our journey and our path is, right? So in that process, what we do is we sort of squash spirit, and we allow our soul. So our spirit speaks to our soul speaks to our mind, our body, and tells our body what to do, how to react, how not to react, how to speak and how not to speak, those kind of things, right? So when we allow our spirit to be squished, we're not getting the true self to us, who we are, for our purpose, our journey, and everything else. I mean, there's a lot of people that may watch this that believe in different things, and whether it's God or Buddha or the universe or whatever you believe in, I believe in God, and I believe that I am here for a certain purpose. There's reasons that we come into certain people and things like that, because that's the way our journey is supposed to go, for our calling and our purpose. Now, purpose can actually change through our life, because we change through our life. The creator doesn't change, but the thing is, we do change, and we're expected to change because of where we are in our journey and our process. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't understand that. Don't we have a calling and a purpose for our whole life? Well, we may have underlying, yes, but in all reality, you're not the same person that you were 10 years or 15 years or 5 years ago, let alone 1 year ago. And so we have to be honest and true to ourselves. Thank you. So what I'm saying about that is, so say I'm a horse person. I loved horses. I've always loved horses since I was a little kid. But maybe at some time in my life, I've got horses and I've got all this equipment and I've got a stables. I've got whatever it is that I have. I all of a sudden lose interest in horses. So what does that mean? Does that mean my purpose and my journey has ended really with horses? No, it means that something is changing in me, which is spiritually and which is mentally, that I've done my due diligence to whatever that purpose was, that calling was for that time period. So when we look at purpose and being true to ourselves and being honest with ourselves, if I keep going on and just keep doing horses, then the love is going to not be there for it. It's going to become more burdensome. It's going to become more whatever it is to me, and not of love and light of the highest power. So rather than saying, you know what, I love horses, I've always loved horses, but you know what, I'm time to do something else, because I just feel like This is just not going right, or it's not where I'm supposed to be going. So that is the spirit talking to you, saying, you know what? This is time to come to an end with this, because as we know, things do change, things do come to an end. And then we move on to something different for another journey. Because at the end of the day, our journey and our purpose is not for us. That's a selfish way to do things. It's not for us. Whatever we've been given by our creator is that we need to give that to others in love and light and purpose and all that kind of stuff. And so if we keep it to ourselves, it's a very selfish act, because it's not meant for us to stop here, if that makes sense. And I'm going somewhere with this, because in another thing that I'm doing, I was sharing with someone that, if we look at the compass, what does a compass do? It usually, not GPS. Let's go back to the old-fashioned compass, right? So that GPS that compass is to guide us. And we say, well, we got north, east, south, and west. Yeah, great. But what do we really look at? If you know about compasses, what are you really looking forward to? The main thing. You're looking to true north. You need true north. And in order you could go north, well, that could take you off a few degrees here and there. You might miss your mark 100%. But the other thing is, if you go to true north, it should bring you to your exact location if you're following all the directions of the compass. So when we are not following our true north of us as a human being, then we're missing our mark. We're missing where God or your creator, your divine, wherever that is to take you in your journey. So what we need to do is sort of look at our past and see, is that really truly me? Because a lot of the problems that we have, the weaknesses, the strongholds, and people call it an addiction, but it's a stronghold because they can be released. It can be released. And the thing is that people learn this all from not only habits from when we're toddlers on up, and we might say they're bad habits, bad choices. No, actually, they're things done that weren't corrected, or were corrected in the wrong manner. And then it created fear. Then we live our life in fear. So if we live our life, we should live it in two ways. We either live it in love or we live it in fear. Some people say, well, that's the same thing as good as bad. Well, if you want to look at it that way, but it's based on fear is where it's based on. So as a toddler, as you're growing up, whatever circumstances you're in, whatever surrounds you is what is going to mold you. Thank you. So when you are being molded, it might not be who God or your creator intended you to be. So we sort of fake it until we make it. So as we grow up, so if you're going to school, if you're in school and that kind of thing, then if somebody starts bullying you because maybe you wear a different dress or you wear different clothes or maybe you're poor and you look at Dolly Parton, how she was teased about her clothes. Very poor family. And look at her. She's very successful, but she's doing the thing that she was built to do. Her passion, her calling, her journey was supposed to do. And she's very good at it because that is who she is and that's who she was created to be. But coming up through that process, you have to understand that she was probably bullied. They probably wanted her to go in a different manner or a different way. Or parents may, or family even may, coach you into an area you don't want. So, for example, like my mother, she was an RN, and back in that generation where she grew up, the parents made the choice and the decision of what she was going to do with her life, and that was go to school and be an RN and make money and have a good job and do that. But that was not my mother's passion whatsoever. Now, did she like it? No, not in the beginning. Did she want to do it? Nope, not in the beginning. But it became to be her calling. Now, sometimes we have people mold us, and sometimes we make our own choices to do it. Now, would she have picked something else? Possibly. But what my mother did was, thank you, she took her RN and she did something that she really enjoyed to do. She took that job and she was able to do her passion on the side. So as an RN, it helped her get into a business as an entrepreneur. And so in Michigan, it would get really cold, and the entrepreneurship that she had was more of a summer based business, so she would do nursing in the winter and then she would do her entrepreneurship in the summer. It also took her to another entrepreneurship. She was very much into fashion. She loved fashion, couldn't afford the clothes. Very smart woman, took it and opened a fashion boutique where she could get her clothes at wholesale and discount. So these kind of things, when I'm talking, she's being true to herself, that she decided that this is what she was going to do because that was her passion and her desire. However, she also knew that as an RN, she could help others. And before she passed away, she was actually the what do you call it, the she was like the little resident nurse in the whole apartment complex, and people would come to her. But she also was an advocate for elders in action through a lot of different things, but she was able to help. And my purpose in saying this is that whatever we do in our journey, it has to be a spiritual decision on what we do, to at least be able to come to the point that we are truthful with ourselves first, and that we can actually move forward in our journey of being our own calling and our purpose in life, because otherwise you won't be satisfied and you won't find joy, because you'll be looking for happiness. Now, if you know what happiness is, you can find happiness, but it comes and goes like a fart in the wind. I usually say that. So it's sort of like I say, for me, men come and go like a fart in the wind. Anyway, but the thing is that it does. Happiness comes and goes. It's circumstantial. It's materialistic. It's circumstantial. And it is where you're getting your highs and lows, because you're living your life based on earth or secular life, not by your spirit. Because if it was by spirit, didn't matter if my boat burned up. Yeah, I am a lot of money and everything, but I would still be okay inside. I'm still joyful that I'm here. I'm okay. Life is good. Okay. So that's where that happens. Then also too, as we grow up, sometimes if there's some toxicity, some abuse in the family, some negativeness in there, then that begins to rub off on us. And then we begin to think that that's the way that life should be. And that's the way you should grow up to be. And that's not the way it is. And that's what I teach in Get Balance 2020 about your mind and transforming that and learning how to fix the brokenness or the weakness, because we all have it, and how to actually heal that, restore it, and rebuild to a more positive, successful life, right? So when we're looking at being true to ourselves, we have to learn and understand the roots from where we think. Am I living in my purpose? Am I living in my calling? Are you? I bet you're not. Most people are not, because they think, well, I got to do this to make money. I got to do this to make a living. And to that effect, somewhat of that is true. However, you're not following your spirit. You don't have faith in your divine. You don't have faith that he will come through for you. And if you want to have some stories, let's sit down and have some coffee, and I will tell you. And by the time I get done, you will realize that there is a divine that is there for you to guide you and to be there for you no matter what. I've been homeless and he was there for me. I was living in my car. He was there for me. He protected me. He kept me warm. He kept food in my belly while my daughter was safe with her dad and everything. And a year later, I'm owning a business. Now get that. There is so much. And I did that business to my purpose and my calling at that time. That actually ended in 2017. What I struggled with is I wanted to stay in that calling. That calling was done and over. He was onto a new calling that I needed to be in. And I am grateful for that. And that's the way to think. And so when we're little and we are squished to do our calling and our purpose, then it affects not only our psyche inside, it affects our spirit, it affects our mind, it affects our body, because we're not living the way, and we're not happy. We're not joyful inside. So when that affects it, it might affect your confidence, your value that in yourself. It might affect your self-esteem. It might affect even your body, because we eat sometimes out of stress, out of unhappiness. We eat out of emotion and feelings. A lot of us. When I was training and in gyms, working in gyms, and being manager of gyms and personal trainings, because some of you know the book behind me, if you see it, I can't, how do I do that? Behind me was created when I was bodybuilding, because I understood that it's not about my body that needs to change first. It's about my thought process and my heart, about myself, and to walk in truth with myself. And that the weight came off because I was able to finally admit to me who I was inside and what I should love inside. That's walking in truth. That's walking in true north. Okay. And there, it didn't stop. My bodybuilding and my training and my education didn't stop there, because that's not what we're supposed to do. That's selfish again. We are supposed to take that and give it forward and help others through it and help each other. That's the whole thing about the precedence of living in your calling and your purpose. So, but the thing is, this squashing of your purpose, or a lot, we can't as children have really much control what's being fed into our spongy minds. But the thing is, when that does happen, we have no idea it's really happening, because we trust and believe in the people around us, that as we grow up into adulthood, then we're now making decisions, we're making relationship choices, we're making job choices, a more of a destructive way to us, and maybe not destructive, but not good choices for our journey and our calling and our purpose here, because now we're making choices and decisions based on somebody else's garbage and stuff. So when I teach Get Balanced 2020, especially in mind, if you go to April, there's a 4-part series of how to get back to the roots. And that is where it all starts. We've got to start to rebuild that foundation of truth to yourself. Because when we talk about truth to yourself, that is becoming all honest, not only to you. So how do you expect somebody to be honest to you and walk in truth if you're not doing it yourself? That's a tough one. And I've done it for years and years and years. Expected people to be honest, expect people to be good, when in all honesty, I wasn't. I was horrible. I was horrible. I knew because of what happened in my childhood, I was doing everything out of fear. Everything I was doing in my life was out of fear. So I would manipulate people into doing things that I had. I knew I was a good manipulator. I could sell you an iceberg in Alaska. But the thing is, was it right? No. Did I know deep down that something was really a little off about it? Yeah. But what was happening? I was meeting the needs of who I was at that time. And it took me years to realize that, but also, too, it took me even more years to realize to walk in my own truth, my true north. And this is what I'm going to be sharing with you, because I want you to walk in your true north. You need to walk in your true north, because if you don't, and you live that life of making poor decisions, poor relationships, or making the wrong choices for your family or your children, or even for anything that you are doing in your life, you're not only affecting yourself, you don't realize you're affecting all the people around you that have any interaction with you. And they watch and they listen. And that's how that happens. And then either things go awry, divorce happens, a split up happens because you weren't being honest to even who you were. So how can they even understand who you were? It's sort of like hearing couples say, well, you've changed. You got married and you changed. Well, he or she wasn't being honest in the first place. These are things that need to be discussed beforehand because they didn't even know who they were. They just know what they wanted and knew how to get it. It's a good way of manipulation. Been there, done that. You want to learn about it? I don't want to teach it. I could teach you. I ain't going to teach it. So this does affect not only your relationships, but your job choices. It can affect your path of where you're going, where the divine or God wants you to go, because each time you make a wrong choice or decision, or maybe the right person comes into your life, but because of your thought process of your mind, is in the sort of a skewed way that you're like, maybe if Mr. Right walks in front of you, oh, well, you just don't look quite right. Well, I'm going over here. I like this dude over here because he's all hunky and all great. Well, the divine, you didn't see the gold and the diamond in the rough here, but you went over there. So you missed out on an opportunity and somebody else will get that opportunity. And you're going to be sitting back like, man, I really wish I had a relationship like that. Wow, why can't I find one? Well, you had one. You just missed out on the opportunity. Anyway, so those things can happen in your journey. I don't want those to happen to you. That's why I'm here. So what you need to do for yourself, if you really want to understand who you are, stop lying to yourself inside. Really stop lying to yourself. You know what? I'm not going to tell you my age, but it took me into my 50s to stop lying to myself. And, I have walked a Christian life all my life. I have been Catholic when I growing up because, see, there's another thing. My parents focus in on, okay, this is how we do our spirituality. This is how you need to believe. And at 18, I was so sick of the Catholic Church that I said, Mom, or actually at 16, I said, can I get out of this? Because this is not what I'm needing to hear. There's so much more I want to know. Can I know it? No, you're going to be Catholic until you're 18. And if you want to move out and do your own thing at 18, then you do your own thing at 18, but you're under my roof. This is how it's going to go. Do you understand and start to see how parents sort of have a control over who we are, even as a little person? And this is how sometimes our young adults just want to get out of the house. Can you see? I just want to leave. So when we become an adult and life in somebody else's eyes and process in spirituality, in their mindsets, not only on top of that being physically abused, not physically punching abused, sexually abused, mentally abused, I had to learn that I had to live sort of in fear. So a lot of my decisions, again, love or fear. So good or bad, whatever you want to call it, but I call it love and fear. So I had to live most of my life in fear that if I wasn't a certain way, people would not accept me who I am inside. Even though my little body, I was screaming to get out, that little girl lived in my body and allowed things to happen until I was 50 years old. I don't want that to happen for you. I really, really don't. I want you to be able to say wherever you are at in your teens, in your adulthood, although I'm going to retract from that because as teens, you are growing. And the thing is about your frontal lobe here, this is the frontal lobe. This is where decisions are made. This does not fully develop. Well, it used to be 21 years old. It does not fully develop until you are 24, 25-ish now. So even going to college, some of you are going to get mad at me. I don't care. The thing is that even for these kids to go to college, and especially with the expense, oh my Lord Jesus, the expense of college these days, they have now a choice to go to college or buy a home. Because they won't be able to have the income as much. Most people won't have the income to be able to support a house payment and a loan payment. $200,000, $100,000 for these kids to go to school. Oh my Lord, it's horrible. So if you're younger, and the thing is, these this time is not developed. So making a decision to go to school or college or whatever, you're basically going to college either one, well, I'm not going to sure what I'm going to college for. Oh, well, mom wants me to be a doctor. Mom wants me to be a nurse, or dad wants me to be an attorney. He wants me to be a judge. Whatever it is, mom, dad, whatever, whoever's doing that. Maybe it's, I had a professor once who from England, smart man. He had two boys. They would not let him go to college until they went out, lived the world, and did some of their little heyday kind of stuff until at least they were 21 or 22. He says, I'm not wasting my good hard-earned money to send those kids to college knowing that their brain is still developing, that their decisions are not going to probably stick in what they're going to do. That's why people go to college once, twice, three times, because they've gone to college and they thought they wanted to be something and then it wasn't. And then they want to be something else and no, it wasn't that. Because we haven't allowed their brain to develop to make a full good decision of who they are inside that they want to do. Does that make sense? So for our young people,